should the game Throne and Liberty, now hear me out, no, because I don't think you hear me out. Should Throne and Liberty have a penalty for someone who leaves the dungeon? Now hold up, this is not just party board dungeoning. This is specifically matchmaking. Should there be a penalty for someone who matchmakes into a dungeon, runs that dungeon, leaves at the boss, makes everyone wait for about 30 minutes to an hour, they don't even end up completing the dungeon at all, and you just wasted your life that you can't get back? Should they have a penalty for that? But also, should they have a system in place where players can go fill into those dungeons and get rewards for helping players complete the dungeon? Now, I'm not gonna say the word mentor because some people gonna get their feathers in a fluff. I was a mentor in FF14 and the system was good. I liked it, okay? I wasn't toxic, everybody else was. But I think it'd be really cool to have a system like that in place because not only does it help bring the community together, because right now people in dungeons are mega toxic if you mess up, but it helps bring them together and also helps bring that positive vibe into the dungeons. Players are queuing up to specifically help these players clear the dungeon. Now, I've been having that thought for a while, and you guys might be like, who are you? Who cares about your thought? Well, true. But I have been having that thought for a while because dungeons just do not feel fun right now in Throne of Liberty. And I love that game. I spent way too many hours on that game. But I'm the type of person who likes to run dungeons just to help people. I'm not really the one to always do something to get something out of it. I usually just queue up for dungeons. Even in FF14 as a mentor, I would queue in for hours just helping people because I know these things can be difficult. But as I said before, I will load into these dungeons. We will run this dungeon flawlessly. About 10-minute dungeon run or less. We run it flawlessly. We get to the boss. Oh no, one wipe and one person leaves. And what that does is it spirals into another person leaving and another person leaving. And then the issue with that is by the time you queue up for another matchmake, the system glitches out on you. You don't find anybody for an hour and you just waste your time. Which leads me, someone who actually enjoys dungeoning just for the sake of dungeoning and helping people out, not wanting to dungeon. So I can only imagine the people who don't want to dungeon at all, but are doing it for gear and they run into the same situation. At least I enjoy the process. These people are like, bro, I don't want a dungeon, but the gear that I got is in there. We gotta do this. I get to the boss, okay, let's do this thing. It's gonna take about 5 to 10 minutes. You know, I'm prepared for that. And then you stuck there for a long time. And heaven forbid, as I said before, you waited for an extended period of time to not even clear the dungeon. Not only did you queue into something you didn't want to do, not only did it take an hour to do it, not only after waiting that long, you end up with a glitchy matchmaking system so you can't matchmake. Literally everything falls apart and you just wonder why you even play the game in the first place. Now I know what some of you guys might say, this is why I use the party board. The party board is the best thing ever. Always use the party board. Forget the party board. Okay, I'm a matchmaking person. FF14, same thing, I'm queuing up. You'll always get those mentors that say, queue up for extremes to the party finder. I'm like, bro, the matchmaking is there. You decided to mentor roulette, get the teaching right now. That's just how I feel. No, I got a little emotional. I'm sorry, I got carried away. I feel like there should be a penalty for matchmaking specifically. Again, not party finder, you're opting into party finder. When matchmaking in any game, you're queuing up basically signing a contract that I am queuing into this to do my best and to clear whatever we're doing or to win the match or whatever. The fact that you leave anytime you want, or you leave just because one little thing goes wrong and ruins the experience for 5 other people. 5. I feel like that should be addressed, like ASAP, Rocky. Like it should be addressed like instantly. Whenever there's something this major that causes a lot of stress for players, that's something that should be rectified as soon as possible so we can retain the players that we have. Because the game is awesome and the game is fun and I love the game. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not biased. Them jump mechanics, bro, be having me going through the roof. Every time I jump, you start flying and then somehow you get slingshot back. I'm like, bro, what happened? Then they have the audacity to have all these hard jump stages. Then they even have the audacity to have a boss where you have to jump up to do things, and for real, y'all doing far much to have this glitchy jump mechanic. Again, a little emotional. I'm sorry, back to the point. Maybe the penalty can be something like a 30-minute lockout queue. Maybe the penalty will be something like the next dungeon you queue for, you cannot leave no matter what. Someone else has to leave first. I don't really know, I'm not a developer, but I do think there needs to be something that deters people from just leaving like that. Leaving because you have to go, leaving because you played the boss about 5-6 times and you're annoyed, I understand. But to leave after the first wipe, or to leave as soon as you get to the boss because someone's taking a little bit too long, or just something, just random stuff, which again causes other people to leave, and it makes the whole process just very messy and people just don't want to do it, including myself. And I love dungeoning, as I said before, and I love helping people complete these dungeons. So if we can get a penalty for that, I'd be hyped. Then I'd also like a system, again, kind of like mentor. We don't have to even call it mentor, buddy system. You don't even have to name it, whatever. Just have a queue so people could just queue up and help people and get into that lobby. lobby. Some people feel like the system prioritizes putting you into a filled lobby, but in my experience, I've played hundreds of dungeons. In my experience, that's not the case. It depends on what the situation is and if the system wants to work right. So just having kind of like a dedicated matchmaking queue, similar to FF14, where the system tries to find gaps in any dungeons or bosses or whatever, and then if there are none, they will just fill you into the start of a dungeon or a boss or whatever. Instead of having to select a specific dungeon, it just puts you anywhere you're needed, and then if you're not needed to be filled in any of them, it just puts you to anyone that needs an extra person to start their game. I do feel like there needs to be a certain prerequisite threshold, similar to FF14, where like FF14, you need to have a tank at max, a healer at max, and a DPS at max. You need to be high enough to where like you can kind of carry the dungeon if you're needed as a healer or a DPS or a tank. If you're so overstatted that it like really helps this party out, I think that'd be really cool too. So nothing crazy like 3K, but I don't know, something like 2K, 2.5K. I don't know how they would determine it, but basically having it so that you're so high that even if you mess up on a mechanic, you don't die, which means you don't have to play it perfectly to help people get through these dungeons. So let's cycle back to the question. Should there be a penalty for people who leave matchmaking queues? If you say no, you're one of them, stop it, get some help, stop ruining people's games. I'm just kidding a little bit. No, because seriously, if you're doing it, you need to relax, chill. But seriously, do you think there should be a penalty for the matchmaking queue? And then also, as I said before, do you feel like they should add a system in place where someone could just fill any dungeon and just help people out if they want to help people out, whether it be for rewards, whether it be for an extra roll or some more tokens that you can use to then roll extra? I don't know, just a little something to say, hey, thank you for helping us out. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and until next time, you know what I always say, think you guys should doing what? Popping often, well often.